Hey everybody, it's Mark Herman, aka LA Bengal fan on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, repping the Bengals here, and we are pleased to have Sam Schneider, the founder of Bengals West, as well as a writer for the Score Crow who covers the Chargers, and a huge Bengals fan. The only other guy I could say who's as big a Bengals fan as me. So how's it going, buddy?
Really good, man. Thanks for having me on.
Oh yeah, so this is something I wanted to do for a lot of the season. Is you and I get together and stuff, and I watched the game at a friend's house, and I was very somber. And Sam actually picked me up, made me feel better about it because I was just like, oh, here we go again. What a typical Bengal loss game we could have won. And you started giving me the cup half full, the positive. So let's go through the good and the bad because there's some of both, but. Now that I'm reflecting back and you and I are talking, there's a lot of good to draw from this game. So
yeah, I agree, and I'm normally, I'm not a pessimistic person. There's a lot of Cincinnati fans that can be often, but I'm not always super positive after a loss. I don't think any of us are. As we're talking, my phone is exploding with text messages right now. But yeah, there is a lot of good to take out of this.
Well, let's get to the bad first, so we can get that out of the way. We can end this video on a positive note. But some of the things I noted. First of all, I wrote here in my notes, I put, I hate Hart and I hate Ross. That's just for me. Bobby Hart, when Mixon didn't have any room, when Mixon barely got back to the line of scrimmage, it was always Bobby Hart's side of the field. It just drives me nuts that he's in there. That was something that drove me nuts. Also, Ross, I really thought should have made that catch. I know that it was when he had to stretch out for, but he just doesn't seem to make the difficult catch.
He had total alligator arms on that. Total alligator arms.
So that bothered me. I put bad situational football because we had a 3rd and 9. We had, them in positions where we could have gotten off the field, and we've got to make those plays. And it just seemed like we picked 3rd down to have breakdowns, and that was similar to last year's defense. Although I want to say props to this defense. I thought they really played better than I expected them to. I thought they kept us in this game. They were the reason why the game was so close. So
yeah, I think it's important to mention Josh Bynes in particular. That guy is, he might as well be, pulling an oxygen tank around with him. Like, I know he's not actually that old, but in football terms, you feel like he's old because he's been around. But the guy's got a ring. And he just kept making play after play after play and big stops and getting pumped up about it. And we've missed that at the linebacker position. So I thought that was, one of the better parts of the defense.
Yeah, I thought his signing was really good, once again, because he's coming from a winning tradition. From Baltimore. And so I really just like bringing in that culture into our locker room. So I like the signing, if nothing else, just for that, to bring that swag with you. On the other stuff, I also said Burrow needs to get his internal clock calibrated. There were several times in the game, and this is just, you got to remember, this is his first game, but there were times where I just thought he needed to get rid of the ball another half a second to a second earlier. And that just is going to come with his internal clock kind of getting more calibrated to the pro speed. So, because there was also a play with A.J. Green where if he throws the ball like a second earlier, he catches A.J. A.J. ends up making the catch, but he had no chance of getting either foot in. And it was just because he threw the ball late. So
I agree. And the sad thing is with a different offensive line, maybe that internal clock would be correct.
Right.
But yeah, he needs to get it calibrated to what we've got right now. Yeah. And I think our offensive line is improving, but it's certainly not. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a work in progress.
exactly.
So
It's a work in progress. So yeah, he's going to need to shave off, a half a second from every drop back that he has.
the only last negative thing I have on my list here, and then everything else is positive, is I said he needs to learn to throw the ball away. That interception, we had just converted a first down. We had two big catches to the tight end Uzama, and I felt like we were rolling. And then it was either a first or a second down play, but he's trying to force something to Gio. Just throw the ball away. Let's live to play another down. That was a complete rookie mistake. When I saw it, I was like, oh, you've just got to learn that you can't get away with that. He tried to flick a pass earlier to Gio, or it might have been Mixon, where it just floated, and I was up there going, please fall to the ground, because it just seemed to hang up there forever. And it's one of those, that's another one. I don't want to see that flick pass where, that's stuff that you get away with in college, schoolyard kind of plays, but in the pros, those tend to hurt you, and one of them did hurt us. So
I agree. I agree. And when he did that shovel pass, I think it was Gio. When he did that shovel pass, I felt like he was. The first thing I thought was, you're trying to be Mahomes,
right,
before you're Mahomes,
right.
And I'm not saying you're not going to get there.
Oh.
I'm not saying you're going to be any worse than him, but let's take it easy on your first game with an abbreviated preseason.
Let's remember, Mahomes
year.
played one game. Mahomes played one game the year Alex Smith played the entire season, and then when Kansas City had clinched their playoff spot, clocked their position in the postseason, Mahomes played the mop-up game against the Broncos. So he sat a whole year behind Smith, played his first game, then starts doing that in his second year. He's not doing that. It is the very first game, of his career.
Right, and it's worth mentioning that when even though you're not starting and you're not playing, you're on the practice squad with pro players, 5 days a week, whether you're starting on Sunday or not.
Yeah.
So not only did Mahomes sit and watch and learn, but also in practice, he was the practice squad quarterback and got to play against pro talent. This is Joe Burrow's first brush with pro talent outside of this year's training camp.
Yeah, which were just scrimmages, no preseason games, none of the OTAs or any of the stuff we're used to. So he has an abbreviated prep time, and still, it's the field. Let's get into the positives, because there were a lot of positives. First of all, the swag. I mean, at no point did you ever think this was too big for Joe Burrow. They panned to him constantly, and he never had that panic look on his face. He always looked like he knew he was in charge. When we went into that final drive, we had wasted our last timeout at like the 6-minute mark. So we had no timeouts. He's getting the ball back just outside of 2 minutes, gets the 2 plays in before the 2-minute warning, gets you. You really felt like, oh my gosh, this guy truly believes he can win. It's not too big a moment for him. Just amazing composure for his very first game out.
Yeah, I think what we saw was, basically LSU, Joe Burrow. The question is always whether you can transfer that to the next level. And I think what we saw was a guy that said, yeah, I can. This is what I did in college, and I'm going to do it here too. Because, throughout the game, he looked like a rookie. You know what I mean? We talked about the timing and everything like that, and it's hard with an abbreviated offseason. But on the last drive, there were a couple times, I think, on the broadcast that they zoomed in on his face, and I looked at his eyes, and I was like, he knows.
Yes.
Like this is where he thrives. This is what he what he digs. And sure enough, he's fitting the ball into, 10-inch windows between two defenders. So
The
I
eye of
got
the tiger. The eye of the tiger. He stayed
that's
in it the
that.
whole time.
That's what I said. I said that to
Yeah.
I said that probably to 10 different people.
Yeah.
I was like, we'll call him Eye of the Tiger because he knows what he's doing, and he's confident. And we haven't seen that in Cincinnati in a very long time. And I've been a fan of a lot of our quarterbacks. I was a huge Andy Dalton apologist.
So was I.
And many others, but but we haven't seen that that killer instinct.
Yeah.
We haven't seen that in so long.
Yeah. No, the last time I can say it is Kenny Anderson and Boomer Esiason. That's really the last time we've had a quarterback that's had that kind of swag, that kind of confidence, that kind of, and you can see the team around him responds to it. So it's there was a possession. I think it was the third or fourth possession. We're still late in the first quarter. We had a 3rd and 7 at midfield. Burrow does the hard count, gets them to draw, gets it to a 3rd and 2. Then he's standing there audibleizing and calling out the blocking assignments, and Hopkins snaps it, and it bounced off his hip, okay? He's able to secure it, and we end up getting the first down. And I turned right to the people I was sitting with. I said, that hits Andy Dalton in the hip, hits the ground. Andy Dalton picks it up in a panic thing and throws it out of bounds. We don't get the first down there. And that's where I saw that composure. Here it was, he wasn't expecting the snap, and we still kept his composure. We got the first down, and I turned to everybody I was watching the game with and said, that's the difference. That Andy Dalton chucks that out of bounds after he panically gets possession of it.
I agree. And it's, and no one would fault Andy Dalton for doing that, but Burrow had the presence of mind and the hands to handle that situation and say, at 24 years old, and say, no. Oh, there it is. I got it.
Right.
I got it. And
not only do I have it, but now I'm going to convert the down. I'm not just going to try to dump it out. And
the same thing, Mark, goes for on the touchdown run. It's my understanding that he audibled that play.
I heard that in his press conference too. We're going to talk about his presser, but he did audible to that play. There was something he saw that he liked, and he audible to that. And there you go.
Yeah, we're in a spread. We're in 5 wide, and he looked and was like, "There is no one in the middle." And not only does that speak to Burrow, but I think Zach Taylor needs a little more credit than people are giving him because he didn't have a lot of time last year.
Right.
So the fact that Zach Taylor is willing to let a rookie quarterback make that audible is a big deal. And look at, turned into a 24-yard touchdown run.
Right.
And how great is that?
Oh, we were talking because you got bits and pieces of the press conference, and I heard bits and pieces of the press conference. Both Zach Taylor owned a lot. He said, listen, we needed to put him away in the third. We had opportunities. We didn't make the plays to do that. None of them pointed to Randy Bullock, who clearly hurt himself on the kick. I've never been a huge Bullock fan, but, that's one where he's clearly hurt. And it was hard. It's a 30-yard field goal. He had made 250 or almost one, I think, was at 50. So he made 2 long ones for us prior to that. But, they're asking Burrow.
Yeah, I think it was like a 50 and a 46 or 43 or something like that.
I expected him to miss either one of those.
Either way, they were great.
Yeah. But then that one, and it hurt. That hurt. The A.J. Green, getting it's questionable. I think it's a ticky-tack call at the end. I think that's a better no call, especially when they're doing all the handsy stuff. But we're the Bengals, so we're not going to get the calls. But at the presser, Burrow gives himself, he says, I didn't make enough plays, and he gave himself a D. He basically said, they said, grade yourself today. He goes, it's a D. He goes, early on, I didn't play well. He goes, we got into a rhythm at the end, but I appreciate that. I appreciate the fact that he acknowledges that he overthrew. He had AJ Green wide open in the end zone after Ross should have made that catch. I expected to see more of that. That was the thing about the play calling for me. I expected to see us stretch the field. We didn't try to do that till the third quarter. I don't know why we didn't try that more in the first half.
Well, I think stretching the field against the Chargers is difficult when you've got Hayward and Chris Harris on the edges. And I wrote about that in the game preview. But with Derwin James missing, I thought the middle of the field would be really wide open. And gosh, how frustrating is it as a Bengals fan, because this always happens, that a former player that never did anything for you
right
shows up for the other team, and Nick Vigil had a great game. And you're like, dude, where have you been? Where were you? We would have given you money if you'd been spoken about for being in the right place at the right time instead of being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Right. But not, but then he plays us and he's in the right place at the right time. My memories of Nick Vigil will always be this. He athletic linebacker, always running 120%. But when we blitzed him, he always seemed to miss the tackle. He'd wrap his arms around the quarterback, but the quarterback would get away. Every time, I remember him having so many almost big plays, but he could never – we would send him on stunts. We would send him on blitzes, and he always it would always be an almost tackle. And then, and then it would be a big play, and you'd say only if Vigil had made the tackle way back there. And
always an almost tackle, but goes down on paper as a missed tackle.
Right.
And we – quite honestly, we hated him for it.
Yeah.
When he left Cincinnati, I don't think anybody shed a tear. Everybody was like, nope. Whatever, dude. Kick rocks. Get out of here.
Because of that. But it's funny that, you're right. He makes the big recovery. Now, let's talk about our defense a little bit, because we've talked a lot about Burrow, and I know we're really excited about what we saw today because even in this loss, we have so much hope for the future. It's amazing. But this defense, I really, really thought our offensive line would play better than it did, and I thought our defense wouldn't play as well. We had 2 fourth-down stops in our territory. When Mixon fumbles after the first time since his rookie campaign, he fumbles the ball, our defense held him to a field goal. I mean, our defense really came up big when we needed him to and kept us in this game.
Yeah, I'll go back to Bynes again. I think Bynes was really, really important. He's not the best player on the field. He's a tremendous leader, and he has a knack for making a big play at the right time. And I thought that was just amazing. But overall, people are gonna say, well, it's Tyrod Taylor. Man, Tyrod Taylor's been around for a long time. He's not that easy to beat. You know what I mean? And we shut that team down. Eckler didn't do anything. Keenan Allen had I think 2 catches. Keenan Allen, he's all pro. He had 2 catches. So I think the defense is great. And, my favorite stat is that I watched the entire game and I never heard the words Mackenzie Alexander. And the reason that's my favorite stat is because it means they weren't touching it. Right. Or if they were, he was all over it already. And that was one of our, in my opinion, that was our best offseason signing. And that was really, really an exciting thing.
Yeah, I agree. So, well, there's a lot of positives to pull from. I think Bengal fans, you got to keep your heads up. I think we go into Cleveland. I think we make some noise this week. I watched the first half of the Cleveland game, and
I'm sorry.
I'm not. No, I'm going to tell you, I'm not impressed with what I see there. We should be able to go in there and win that game. From what I saw. Now, granted, they were in Baltimore, playing Baltimore, but it was kind of – here's my thing, and I tell this to my kids all the time. When you make a mistake, don't make the same mistake again. We're seeing Baker Mayfield. We're seeing the defense. We're seeing the unraveling and losing their heads in situations. We're seeing that, and this has been going – this is like a pattern here. How many times are you going to keep making the same mistake? So I really think it's I think we got a shot Thursday. I'd hoped that we would be 2-0. But I'll take 1-1. I think we have a shot Thursday coming in. So,
yeah, I couldn't agree more. And of course, after coming off a beating like that, Cleveland is going to want to come out and set a tone as well. So, I think Thursday games are usually so vanilla. I think we've got the potential. I think everybody has the potential to see a really fun Thursday night football game because Joe Burrow, I guarantee you Joe Burrow is seething right now.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And Baker
Mixon.
and Baker.
Mixon. Don't think he hadn't fumbled the ball like 625 touches or something. 2017 was his last fumble in his rookie campaign, and he fumbled, and it cost us 3 points, and we lost by 3 points. I think that Mixon's got a huge chip. I think Burrow's got a huge chip. I think this team comes out with an attitude. I really do.
I do too, and I think we've got a potential for a great Thursday night game. It's interesting to note. I meant to mention this earlier. I think Jonah Williams had a really good game today. He missed a couple. And let Bosa into the backfield.
Yeah, there was one where he got around the edge and he leveled Mixon, and it was just like, and I looked and I was just, but it was Bosa. So,
but it's Bosa,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Jonah, I think overall did a good job. Well, guess what your reward is? In 4 days, you get Myles Garrett. That'll be fun. But yeah, I agree with you. I think Thursday is going to be. I think it's going to be a fun game, and I don't see any reason why the Bengals aren't going to come out just firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Sam and I are gonna get together and do some videos this year. So get used to this. I hope you guys like this format. Sam, tell them where they can find you and read your stuff.
You can find me on Twitter at Buy and Sell You. I write for Primetime Sports Talk and the Score Crow, and of course started Bengals West out here in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you, I met Sam. Started attending the Bengals game once I found out about Bengals West. I had taken the train the previous year down to San Diego with my daughter, and we had kind of, hooked up with some fans there, but we weren't any part of a big group. So we drop in, we see a couple games at 5 Line with the Bengals West crowd, and Sam says, we're going to part of this party bus. It's going to be awesome. And he's just met me, and it's going to be awesome. And let me know if you want to go. Not only does he let me go, he lets me have like 2 seats on the bus. There was only room for like 45 people. I took 3 of the seats, and I met all these people, and it was the most amazing experience. And I've been a huge supporter of Bengals West and a part of the crowd ever since. But that was just an amazing generosity for a person you had just met, and what a party we had. I think we had like 8 beers per person on the bus. It was crazy, but really appreciate everything you do over at Bengals West. If you're ever here in LA, hopefully after COVID, when we actually are getting together and watching sports again, Bengals West down at 5 Line in Eagle Rock. So I'll have a preview coming up later this week. We'll have a recap up afterwards. If we can hook up with Sam, we'll get him in there. And with that, I want to say, everybody, hey, hold your head up. There's a lot of positives to draw from today. So with that, I'm going to say, hoo day, everybody. Have a good week.
Hoo day.